My life without a car started in 2015. I had a medical event called an AVM and lost about half of my vision. So that means I have to get around other ways. That involves buses, that involves friends, that involves a lot of walking, Uber when I can swing that price. That's the reality for me and for a lot of other people. I do have a state ID. I've been able to maintain that. It's important for a lot of other reasons, but I can understand how difficult that is to get now because I've had to do it. It's a difficult situation when you don't have the freedom of being able to just drive. I know people work hourly jobs that they don't have a choice to keep working, to pay their bills, that they can't take the time off. There are elderly Nebraskans who don't drive anymore. There are people who live in rural towns and are disabled, whether they're part of our unhomed community, whether they're students. There's a lot of different reasons why people might not have a Nebraska ID that's up to date that are completely valid. It's how do you get to the location? And do you have the funds to pay for what's necessary? If they're not using their ID other than to go and vote, which is going to be a lot of people, that is a poll tax. I think it will stop people from voting because someone's going to show up at the poll and not have their ID. And if we had any data that told us there was real fraud going on, it might be one thing, but we don't. We already go through a process of registering voters, making sure they are who they are, and that on election day, they're at the address that they said they were at. This doesn't add anything to that. It simply adds a barrier for the individual, but in terms of real security, this does nothing. And so requiring that these people get a state ID just for voting is kind of crazy. It seems like an easy process, but once life puts you in the circumstances that I've been put in, it's not as easy as it seems. The reality is we don't all live the same life. We don't all have the exact same experience. And we have to take that into account. We have to think that not everyone is going to be able to do what I do, to have the freedom I have. We should make sure that their voice is heard too, and that the laws we put in place don't cut them out, don't put them as a secondary citizen, but instead encourage them and protect them.